Hello everyone, I'm Matthew, the beginner wood turner, and today the project we're gonna be working on is a lidded box. So I had this piece of cherry that I started turning a box with, but had a huge hole in it. So I filled the hole with epoxy. So now this is gonna go back onto our shark jaws, and we're gonna actually finish this and then use this piece to make a beautiful little lid for it. I'm still hesitant between a knob lid where the handle is going to be made out of the same piece of wood, or if I'm going to use a finial. So yeah, so I'm going to just finish this part off first, and then we'll get to the lid. Alright, so for this project we're going to be using 1/2-inch spindle gouge that has just been sharpened. Get that out of the way. Turn the lid on. The first thing I have to do is clean that up. So that's going to be full of epoxy shavings. So as you can see, the blue shavings here. Smells like epoxy. So I just want to, so yeah. Nice little epoxy shavings. So you can see that's what it looks like. So all I'm interested in doing is just making that detail look nice and just come refine that bead. So that's pretty good. Then we're going to come in. That should technically, yep, that's our bead. So now that's all finished. I still have some little air pocket holes, but I still need to get better at using epoxy, but I'm pretty happy because it saves the piece of wood that I would have probably otherwise thrown out. So now we're going to sand. So I have my sanding papers right here. So we're going to start with This is 80 grit. We're going to start with some 80 grit. Move on to some 150. That off with 350, 320. Last baby top. Now, I like to just use beeswax. I'm going to use this old sock, stick of beeswax. I don't know if that's in the way, take it out of the way. Just press the beeswax in. You can see the white lines, that's the wax that is there. That's just melted onto the piece of wood. And I take the sock and just blend that in together. And you can see there's these white spots, that's where the wax hasn't gone. So you have to take your nail kind of get into those little crevices. And then that's going to give a beautiful color to this beautiful piece of wood. See what it looks like? I really love the contrast between the blue and the cherry color. yeah, there's no picked up grain with that. That's just pretty. That's just magnificent. So, and hopefully this goes big enough. Will it? Yes. But that's probably going to leave significant marks because the chuck is not at the optimal position. Put that in. Okay, that doesn't cover the entire thing. That covers the entire thing. Find the groove where the bead was. Perfect. So that's solid. Now just take some scissors, cut off the excess. And now this is going to be the cloth that I'll use in the future for pieces of this size. And it's also good to cut off the excess because if it starts flopping around, it's just very, very annoying and can get in your way. Perfect. So that's good. Now that's done. Now to hollow out the inside, it's going to be very simple. Just raise the rest a tad. And I'm going to be using a homemade square end scraper. Now that's a little bit dull. So I'm going to sharpen this. And I'm going to reposition the camera so you can see what I'm doing on the inside. So I'm going to be back in just a second. All right. So square end scraper. So we're going to start by truing up the end. And this is going to get loud. Epoxy shaving, so that means I'm in the hole where the epoxy was, but I'm not quite down at the bottom yet. I like to stop during the turning just to make sure. So just to show you guys, I know we're not thick enough and I don't usually use calipers, but it's just, I have that much thickness left. So about that much left, which is a lot. So it can come down significantly more. I want a thin wall. I don't want the walls too thick, so that's pretty nice. When I'm doing this, I'm actually not looking at the knife. I'm looking on the other side of the knife. So now with this, that's actually, what's fun with the gaps is that you can actually just go immediately feel. I still have some thickness and it's kind of like that. So like this. So I'm higher on each end. So I have to go in like that, kind of get that. Woo, kind of get that side down. So still a little thick. Could go down a little bit more. I'm taking my time because I've never worked with epoxy. Well, I've worked with epoxy, but not to this extent. And it was quite a big hole that I filled with it. And I don't know how strong the epoxy is, so I don't want to go too deep and have it just explode. Because in order for you guys to hear me talk, I'm not wearing my safety shoes. If it blows up and hits me in the face, well, that's not something that I want either. That sounds pretty good. Yay! Yes. Oh yeah, that's good. That's really nice. That's nice and thin. It's still a little bit thick on the sides, but I can live with that. I'm just going to get the sides down a little tad, a tad more, but the center is going to stay the same. I'm actually going to just raise that a little bit, move the rest, and go in with a skew chisel. I'm just going to go undercut that grain just a tad. That basically acts as a negative reg scraper, and that just makes everything flush. And now I'll just go back in with the square end scraper and just make everything level. That is a-okay. So we can go in for the sanding part. Usually I put a little flange. I'm going to not do that this time. I'm just going to make a flange on the lid. That's just going to sit there, which is fine. So 3 same sanding papers. So we'll start with 80. Into the corner. And 320. And into that corner. Make sure that's all nice and smooth. When you're sanding on the lathe, you always want to be careful of the center because it tends to kind of stop, and that's when your thumb gets stuck and it starts to turn and it's just uncomfortable. So you want to avoid that. Just want to see. Oh yeah, that's nice. That's really nice. So we're going to get the stick of beeswax. See how it wants to jerk when I get to the center? Same principle, just burn in a layer. And with the beeswax shot, let's go in and spread it. Just like that. And that should give us a nice little box. You see that? I just love the contrast. I just think that it's so beautiful. I just think that so I just checked the camera to see if everything was good. So because this is the first video like this that I've ever made. Anyway, so now the lid, I'm just gonna use that as the lid part. So first thing that's gonna go on the chuck. It's such an easy way of holding stuff like this. A lot of people like to start between centers, make a groove. Just buy yourself a 60 mil Forstner bit and just do this. It's so easy. These chuck jaws, the shark jaws, are the absolute best jaws that you can purchase. Vicmar sells them, BM Wood sells them. They're just absolutely perfect. They're just so good. So we're gonna get this, the spindle gouge, and we're gonna true up this end. As we're at it, might as well true up. That's straight, doesn't matter. Now, we're gonna use some calipers, and just mark the diameter of this. So that should fit onto there, so that I can create a flange for the lid. So very important not to let this one touch or the whole thing goes ding. So you kind of just eyeball it. That one right there. So I like to go in with the scraper. Just to get the initial cut, and then I go in with the skew and get a nice straight line. And if you want your box to be good, you need to stop and check, because if you just guess and then the fit is super loose, then it's not really nice. You want a very, not super tight, but you want a tight fit. So that's too small. I'd rather check 2 to 3 times than get it wrong and have to start over. So now that I know that I just need a little bit, I'm going to go with the skew. Try that. You see that? Now that's finished. I'm not going any. It's a fit that will not be suction fit, but just be enough to say that it's not just going to rock around when you pick it up. So if you could pick it up without the cover going like this, right? So that's the kind of fit that you actually want. So now that's it. That part is finished. So now we're going to do the inside. So for the inside, I have to think about what I want to do with the inside. I'm going to use a bowl gouge. I need to think about what kind of lid I want to make. So it always depends on if I want to use a finial or not a finial. What I'm thinking for this one, there's no finial. I'm just going to make it one color. So basically just one piece of wood. So I don't want the lid to be too deep. I just want the lid to be deep enough to allow a little bit of stuff to be put in the box and just enough space for the chuck to grip stuff. I rather use an expansion than a grip when the inside of boxes. So I'm going to start with the bowl gouge. Actually, I could probably do this with a spindle gouge. Add a little bit of decoration. And now I need a place for the chuck to grip. So the jaws of the chuck are about there. So and you want it to be straight, because if it's not straight, the chuck won't grip. sand, I want to see if this is actually going to fit. So, and no, this will not fit. That's too small of a recess. And also, the recess allows you to go play around with this, because if the chuck jars are there, then you run the risk of hitting them with your gouge. So I prefer to have a recess with this kind of situation. So I just need it to be a little bit bigger. That should do it. No, that doesn't do it. That is not troubling, but I didn't expect it to be that big. I know that I can grip this, but I don't want to grip it, so I'm just gonna make it a little bit bigger. The flange is going to be very, very small, which it's not the best, but as long as the recess, you're compressing in the major part of the wood, you're fine. So what I mean by that is that there's this little flange. You don't want to be pressing against this. You want to be pressing against that. So you need to go a little bit deeper. So I'm going to have to make the lid a little bit deeper. See if this fits. Yes. That fits. What am I compressing against? So that's quite thin, but I can compress and I have a grip, so that's good. So now I'm going to turn it back around, sand it. Turn it back around, sand this. Same grits. So then, where is my beeswax? Beeswax. So, the inside is done. beautiful. So turn that around. It's good. Now let's do this side. So now spindle gouge. Drop the rest. I know the handle should be about there. This side I want a bead. So why am I going to put a bead? So what a bead does is that it creates a join. So this is what the famous turner Richard Raffin realized, that if you have a bead on each side, when the piece distorts, if it distorts, but it most likely will because wood isn't like always stable. And because there's few beads, it distracts the eye from the warping. So the whole thing still looks all the same. But if it's a perfect fit, then that could be problematic. So I'm just going to create an OG center. So, how I do an OG is I stick in, I turn, and then I just round like this, and then I just push my hips in, and that just creates a natural inwards curve. Now, can my hands grip that? Yeah, my hands being big fingers, so if my fingers can grip it, someone else's can. And I'm actually going to make this a little bit smaller. And I could go in this side, do like that, so there's even more room for the fingers. Grab a smaller spindle gouge. Move the rest a little. There we go. Now that's going to be sanded. So exactly the same. Baby grit. Now you have to make sure you get into that little crevice. 150. Also, when you're sanding, always this side. Never here because your hand could go down. or this way, close your hand that way, like fine. And 320. And always keep the rest away. You don't want your fingers getting caught between the workpiece and the rest, because that could just be extremely not fun. And the beeswax. Now I'm not going to be able to get the stick of beeswax inside that crevice, but I will be able to get the sock in there. So, just like that. Sock. And push the nail right in there. Zoop, zap, zip. And there we go. Beautiful, no torn grain. Let's see how this is. Now that's still a little thick, but that's fine. Now you can see that's not the best continuation of the curve. So I'm actually going to put this back on because I need that to come in a little bit. So we're actually going to put this back on. It's turning true. And sorry, the dog got loose, so I had to go pick her up. So, might as well try and see what this looks like. And that's a nicer fit. So I'm just going to roll that back and sand this. True. So just turn the rest. There we go. And 320. Beeswax. And then apply the sock. This is actually an old sock from my old high school uniform. So anyone who went to Masternational Penya, that's what the socks have become. beeswax appliance thingies. And that is beautiful. No split grain, no end grain tear out. It's thinner, so it's just a little bit lighter, and fits like a charm. So actually there's a little wax there that's making it stick, but beautiful. So this little box is now finished. A nice little grain pattern with this beautiful epoxy. I really think that the blue brings out the contrast. Very nice little fit, not too much wobble, and just looks really nice. So you can put your jewelry, little paper clips, anything you want in there. Very nice little box. So hope you enjoyed the video. Happy turning to all of you, and see you next time.